When everything seemed lost, Kate was certain her world had fallen apart. Life had thrown a series of relentless challenges her way, culminating in the end of a relationship she had once believed would last forever. Heartbroken and emotionally exhausted, Kate had decided to leave the bustling city life behind and retreat to the peaceful small town where she'd spent her childhood summers. She arrived there with no clear plans, just an aching need to find herself again. The town hadn't changed much over the years. The familiar charm of cozy bakeries, narrow cobbled streets, and the gentle hum of daily life wrapped around her like a comforting embrace. There was something deeply soothing about the routine simplicity of the place, but her heart remained a quiet, empty space. Each morning she walked down to the lake nearby, hoping to feel something, anything, that might reignite a spark of hope. One overcast morning, as she sat on a bench by the lake lost in thought, she heard a voice behind her. "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" Startled, she looked up to find a man around her age with kind eyes and a warm smile. He was carrying a sketchbook and had an easygoing air about him that immediately put her at ease. "No, go ahead," she replied, her voice tinged with curiosity. The stranger sat down and opened his sketchbook, beginning to sketch the lake's landscape with a focused intensity. After a few moments of comfortable silence, he looked over at her and smiled. "It's beautiful here, isn't it?" "Peaceful," he said, his gaze sweeping over the lake and settling back on her. Kate nodded. "I used to come here as a kid. It's funny. I always thought I'd live in a big city, chase big dreams. But I find myself back here searching for something. Searching for myself, I guess." The stranger introduced himself as Daniel, a painter who had moved to the town a few years back to escape the pressures of city life. He shared his own story of feeling lost and seeking solace in the town's quiet beauty. They talked until the sun began to set, finding an easy camaraderie in each other's presence, both drawn by a similar yearning for peace and understanding. Over the next few weeks, Kate and Daniel continued to meet by the lake, talking about life, art, dreams, and heartbreak. They'd share coffee at the local cafe, take long walks down winding trails, and watch the sunset together in comfortable silence. The emptiness she had felt began to fill, little by little, with laughter, with warmth, and with the quiet joy of shared moments. One day as they walked along the lake's edge, Daniel stopped and looked at her with a seriousness she hadn't seen before. "Kate," he began, "I know we've both been through a lot, and I can see how guarded you are. But being with you, it feels like I'm finding pieces of myself I didn't know I'd lost." Kate's heart fluttered, her mind spinning with emotions she wasn't sure she was ready to confront. But as she looked into his eyes, she felt something deep and certain, a connection that went beyond words, beyond the scars of their past. From that moment, their friendship blossomed into something more. They began spending even more time together, each encounter filled with unspoken promises and tender gestures that spoke volumes. Their love grew slowly, gently, built on trust and understanding, a love that wasn't about grand gestures but about quiet, steadfast companionship. Months passed, and the once somber days of Kate's life transformed into vibrant moments shared with Daniel. They spent afternoons painting by the lake, their hands occasionally brushing as they mixed colors on their palettes. Each brushstroke felt like a step toward healing. Each shared glance a reminder that love could be gentle and comforting, like a steady heartbeat. But one autumn evening, just as everything seemed perfect, Kate received a phone call that brought back the darkness she thought she had left behind. It was from her ex, calling to apologize and asking if they could meet. She hesitated, torn between the urge to move forward with Daniel and the familiar pull of old memories. She knew she didn't love her ex anymore, but something in her heart ached at the thought of facing the past once again. She told Daniel about the call, her voice laced with uncertainty. He listened, his face soft and understanding, but she could see a flicker of pain in his eyes. Despite his own feelings, he encouraged her to confront her past and find closure. With a heavy heart, Kate agreed to meet her ex, hoping it would bring her the closure she needed. The meeting was difficult. Her ex spoke of regrets and lost chances, of the mistakes he had made, and the love he'd taken for granted. Kate felt a mix of sadness and relief as she realized that she no longer felt bound by those memories. She had found a love that was calm and steady, a love that didn't require her to change or be someone she wasn't. Returning to the lake where she had first met Daniel, she found him waiting, his expression a mixture of hope and trepidation. She walked up to him, took his hands and looked into his eyes. "I had to let go of my past," she said, her voice soft but steady. "But the only future I see now is with you. You're the one who has been there through everything, who saw me at my lowest and stayed by my side. I was lost when I came here, but you helped me find myself." Daniel's eyes glistened as he pulled her into his arms, holding her close, feeling her heartbeat against his chest. "Kate, you're the missing piece I didn't know I was looking for. With you, I feel like I've come home." They stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, knowing that this was the start of a new chapter. Their love had come quietly, almost unnoticed, in moments of laughter and shared silence, in the healing of old wounds and the courage to face their fears. Over the years, Kate and Daniel built a life together in the small town, filling their days with art, laughter, and love. They painted the walls of their home with colors that reminded them of sunsets and calm waters. They explored the world, but always returned to their quiet haven by the lake. And as they grew older, they would often sit on that same bench where they had first met, watching the world go by, a silent testament to the resilience of love and the incredible beauty of finding someone who turns life's darkest moments into light. They knew, more than anything, that they had found a love worth waiting for, a love that had arrived just when everything had seemed lost. The years passed gently, their lives woven together by countless shared moments by the lake, quiet mornings over coffee, and late nights filled with whispered dreams. But as often happens in life, fate had other plans, and it wasn't long before they were faced with a new challenge, one that would test their love and resilience in ways they had never imagined. One winter, Kate began to feel more tired than usual. At first, she brushed it off as the result of long work hours and the demands of everyday life, but the fatigue grew more persistent. Daniel noticed the change and grew increasingly concerned as her once bright laughter dimmed, replaced by exhaustion she couldn't hide. Finally, after much urging from him, Kate went to see a doctor. The news was devastating. She was diagnosed with a rare, aggressive form of leukemia. When the words fell from the doctor's lips, Kate felt her entire world crumble around her. She thought about Daniel, about the home they'd built together, and the life they had dreamed of, and her heart broke. She was afraid, not just for herself, but for the thought of leaving him, of leaving the life they had fought so hard to create. When she told Daniel she expected him to be crushed, to maybe even pull away. Instead, he wrapped her in his arms, his voice steady and calm as he whispered, "We're going to face this together. You're not alone, Kate. You never will be." From that moment, Daniel became her rock. He was with her at every doctor's appointment, every chemotherapy session, and every sleepless night filled with fear. He held her hand as she lost her hair, wiped away her tears when the pain became unbearable, and whispered words of love and hope when she felt too weak to carry on. Their love, once so easy and carefree, was now bound by a fierce loyalty, a commitment that went beyond words. The days grew darker as Kate's health declined, and there were moments when she wanted to give up. But each time, Daniel would find a way to remind her of the beauty in their life, of the love they had shared, and the future they were still fighting for. He would take her to the lake, bundle her up in warm blankets, and sit with her as they watched the waves. Sometimes he'd bring his sketchbook and draw her, capturing her beauty and spirit, a portrait of her resilience that he hoped would outlast time itself. One evening as they sat by the lake under a blanket of stars, Daniel turned to her, his voice barely a whisper. "Kate, if I could take this pain away, I would. But know this, no matter what happens, you've changed my life. You've shown me a love so pure, so unwavering, that I feel like the luckiest man in the world. And if this is the time we've been given, then I will cherish every second of it." Tears filled Kate's eyes as she looked at him, a sense of peace washing over her. "You've given me a love I never thought I deserved, Daniel. Even if this journey is shorter than we hoped, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I've had the privilege of loving you, and that's more than I could have ever asked for." As her health continued to decline, they spent their days in quiet companionship. They filled their home with fresh flowers, laughter, and memories of happier times. Daniel painted her portrait one last time, capturing her as he saw her, radiant, strong, and eternally beautiful. Eventually, Kate's body could no longer keep up the fight, and one peaceful morning, with Daniel by her side, she took her last breath. She slipped away gently, her hand in his, a soft smile on her lips, as though she was finally at peace. In the weeks that followed, Daniel's world grew quiet and hollow. He would sit by the lake for hours, watching the waves, feeling the weight of her absence like an ache in his bones. But slowly he began to feel her presence in the small things, in the quiet hush of the dawn, the glimmer of sunlight on the water, and the gentle rustle of leaves on the trees. She was there, in his heart, a part of him forever. One evening, as he sat by the lake, he opened the last letter she had written to him, her delicate handwriting filling the page. Asterisk. "My dearest Daniel, if you're reading this, then I am no longer with you in this world, but please know that my love for you transcends this life. Thank you for showing me the beauty of a life fully lived, even if our time was cut short. You gave me the strength to keep going, and I want you to keep going too, to live the life we dreamed of and to find happiness again. I'll always be with you in every sunrise, in every gentle breeze, and in every beautiful memory. Love, Kate." As Daniel finished reading, he felt a strange, comforting warmth fill his heart. Her words lifted him, giving him the courage to move forward, to honor the love they had shared by living fully, just as she would have wanted. Though she was gone, Kate's presence remained in his life like an indelible mark, a reminder that love endures beyond time, beyond space, and even beyond loss. He carried her memory with him, a beacon of strength and hope, as he continued to live with the profound, unwavering love she had left behind. In the months that followed, Daniel found himself navigating the world in shades of both grief and gratitude. Though Kate was gone, he felt her everywhere, in the warmth of the morning sun, the gentle brush of the wind against his skin, and even in the scent of wildflowers that grew along the lake where they had spent so many precious moments. He would often sit there, remembering her laugh, her smile, the way she had brought light into his life when he had felt lost. One day, while sitting by the lake, Daniel noticed a young woman sketching by the water. She was focused, completely absorbed in her art, her hair falling softly around her face. There was something familiar in the scene, a subtle reminder of how he and Kate had met, and it brought a bittersweet smile to his face. Lost in his thoughts, he hadn't noticed her looking his way, until she offered a small, kind smile. "Isn't it beautiful here?" she said, her voice breaking the silence in a way that felt comforting, not intrusive. Daniel nodded, feeling an odd sense of connection in her presence. "Yes," he replied softly, "it's my favorite place in the world." They introduced themselves, and she told him her name was Emma. She too had come to the town looking for solace after a difficult time, hoping the quiet beauty of the lake would help her rediscover a part of herself that she felt she'd lost. They spoke for a while, sharing memories and laughter, and Emma's warmth reminded him of the first time he'd met Kate. There was no rush, no pressure, just two souls finding comfort in each other's company. From that day, Daniel and Emma began to see each other more often, sharing quiet mornings by the lake, long walks down familiar paths, and conversations that drifted easily from one topic to another. Though Daniel's heart still ached for Kate, he found himself looking forward to these moments with Emma, the joy of human connection easing the sharpness of his grief. Emma too was healing, and they grew close, sharing stories of both loss and hope. One evening, as they sat by the lake watching the sunset, Emma turned to him, her gaze soft but searching. "Daniel," she began, hesitating slightly, Do you think it's possible to love again, even after losing someone who meant so much?" Daniel felt a lump form in his throat as he looked out at the water, his thoughts drifting to Kate. He knew that his love for her would never fade, that she would always be a part of him, but he also realized that his heart was not bound by time or memory alone. Life had given him the gift of love once, and maybe, just maybe, it was offering him that gift again. "I think love is boundless," he said slowly, feeling each word resonate within him. "We never stop loving those we've lost. But sometimes opening our hearts again is a way to honor them, to live the life they would have wanted for us." Emma reached over, her hand resting gently on his. They sat in silence as the sun dipped below the horizon, each lost in their own thoughts, yet somehow finding solace in each other's presence. On the anniversary of Kate's passing, Daniel visited the lake alone, carrying with him a bouquet of wildflowers, her favorite. He sat by the water, closing his eyes and letting the memories of their time together wash over him. A sense of peace filled him, mingling with the grief that would always linger, a reminder of the love that had changed him forever. As he sat there, Emma approached, sensing the quiet solemnity of the moment. She sat beside him, taking his hand in hers, and they watched the water together, honoring Kate's memory in the silence. Daniel turned to Emma, his heart full of both sadness and gratitude. "Kate taught me how to love without fear, how to live without holding back," he said softly, looking at Emma with a tenderness that spoke of all the pain, all the joy, and all the hope that had brought them here. "And I think she would want me to keep living, to keep loving, with you." Tears glistened in Emma's eyes as she reached up, gently touching his face. "I think she would too," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "And I promise to cherish every moment with you, to love you the way she would have wanted." In that quiet, sacred moment, Daniel felt the weight of his grief lift just a little, replaced by a love that was gentle, healing, and filled with hope. His heart, once broken and aching, was whole again, stitched together by memories and the new love he had found with Emma. And as they sat there, hand in hand, watching the gentle waves of the lake, he knew that Kate's spirit would always be with him, guiding him, reminding him that love, true, boundless love, has the power to carry us through even the darkest of days and bring light once more into our lives. For in loving Emma, he was honoring Kate, and in his heart, they would forever be connected. A testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring power of love.